You see that all throughout the Scriptures. How did they build these images? How did the Israelites build? Why did they build a golden calf? Why did they do that? Because that's what was put into their imagination. And they did it. They were the children of disobedience. And so the false prophet, guys who make comic books and write all this other stuff, Dan Brown and all these things, the false prophets are putting into the minds of men how to build this image. That's what they're doing. Where did Nebuchadnezzar get the idea in Daniel chapter 3 to build this giant statue? He saw it in a dream. He built it. Revelation 18:23, and the light of a candle shall shine no more at all in thee. The voice of the bridegroom and of the bride shall be heard no more at all in thee. For thy merchants were the great men of the earth, for by thy sorceries were all nations deceived. Sorceries, witchcraft, powers of imagination and might. Your powers are useless against me. See, that's where we get that from. It comes from this whole scenario of the false prophet deceiving everybody in the world. And you know what God said? He said this concerning Babylon and the fact that she let herself be deceived. You know what He said? The light of the candle. In other words, I'm going to take the Bible out. The voice of the bridegroom and the bride. I'm going to take the church out. You're not going to hear the real Jesus and the real church proclaiming the candle, the light of the gospel to you anymore. And I'm going to turn you over to all these fantasies and sorceries. That's what I'm going to do. And then I'm going to destroy you for it. Revelation 19:20, the beast was taken, and with him the false prophet that wrought miracles before him, with which he deceived them that had received the mark of the beast, and them that worshipped his image. These both were cast alive into fire lake. Okay? I'm not kidding you. That's where he's from. He is from Fire Lake, the lake of fire. He's going to be cast into the lake of fire. Why? Because he wrought miracles, and he did those things in order to deceive everybody. Now, let me introduce you to a couple of characters from the Bible. You see, when you hear all these preachers talking about Superman is Jesus the superhero, they're not talking about the real Jesus. I'm going to tell you guess where the word hero comes from. Where do you find out about champions and all these mythological men? Where do you find out about that? But let me introduce you to a couple characters out of the Bible. First one is called the Antichrist, the beast. He shows up in different ways in the Scripture. If you study typology, when you're studying the Scriptures and you see a man in the Bible, he's either going to be a picture of Christ or the Antichrist. Depends on whether he's smoking a cigarette or not. All right? Anyway, he's either going to be a picture of a good guy or a bad guy. Like Samson, he sacrifices his life in order to save his people and destroy his enemies. That's Christ. And yet we have Absalom. Absalom has long hair like a woman. You see that in Revelation 9. And he seeks to take over the throne of his father. He's the Antichrist. That's what he's a picture of. Judas was called the son of perdition. He was a thief. And yet you have the real Jesus standing there with him. And Jesus and Barabbas. You have Jesus, you have Barabbas. Barabbas is a picture of the Antichrist. Why? Because he's a thief and a murderer, and he was brought up out of prison, out of the pit, literally. So the Bible has all these characters in them, and God allows us to use the weaker side of our mind, which is our imagination, to understand these concepts and these principles. So let's look in Revelation 17 for how God describes them both. We have the Antichrist, and we have the false church, the church of the false prophet, Mystery Babylon the Great. So he carried me away in the Spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. And the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet color, and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand full of abominations and filthiness of her fornication. And upon her forehead was a name written. 13 words here. Mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. Now I want you to focus your attention on this word mystery. Mystery. Remember, Jesus here is plainly revealed. In all of these books, he's occulted. He's esotericized. I don't know if that's a word or not. But he's made into something, a symbol or a myth or a metaphor or an allegory in order to conceal and hide his true identity. So if there is a mystery religion, then there is a queen of those mysteries who guards and protects those mysteries, and her name is Mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots. Now, again, just look at the concepts here. Here he's revealed. Here he's secreted or mysterious. You never know his true identity. What do these comic book characters, what do most of them have in common? They'll have a secret identity. And here, watch this. Now I'm Superman, and you don't know the difference. Now, oh, I thought you were Superman. You're just Clark Kent. Really? A pair of glasses, and that's what does it? At least Spider-Man had the knowledge to cover his whole face. Anyway, they all have a secret identity. They are hidden, occulted. They don't want anybody to know who they really are. Jesus went around telling everybody, I and my Father are one. He said it plainly. And he said, whatever I've told you disciples in your ear, you proclaim from the rooftops. You tell everybody who I am. See how it is? See how it works? So I pulled a lot of information from various sources. Albert Pike, obviously, Marilyn Ferguson, some of these other writers. But there was one guy, Manly Hall, and I talk about him a lot. And I have his book. It's a huge book called The Secret Teachings of All Ages. And in The Secret Teachings of All Ages, Manly Hall just goes through the whole of Earth mythology from every corner of the Earth. And he basically says they're all talking about the same secret, the same mystery. It's the mystery of life. It's the mystery of mankind, how he's going to turn out. The fact he's going to be, there's a great, great, great big secret that so far they've not let just mortal men in on. And this is what he talks about in The Secret Teachings of All Ages. So he's explaining the concepts behind what is Mystery Babylon and what she's trying to conceal. So he says in the preface to his book, Secret Teachings, the book to which this is the introduction is dedicated to the proposition that concealed within the emblematic, think of Superman, think of Batman, all the emblems they have, emblematic figures, allegories, and rituals of the ancients is a secret doctrine. Blavatsky wrote a book called The Secret Doctrine concerning the inner mysteries of life, which doctrine has been preserved in toto, or in other words, in its totality, among a small band of initiated minds since the beginning of the world. During departing, these illumined philosophers left their formula that others too might attain to understanding. But lest these secret processes fall into uncultured hands and be perverted, the great arcanum was concealed in symbol or allegory, and those who can today discover its lost keys may open with them a treasure house of philosophic, scientific, and religious truth. And the reason why I'm pausing, I'm just reading this again, and I'm thinking in my mind what he's talking about here. First of all, he talks about something that's concealed in emblematic figures, allegories, and rituals, and so on. That's what comic books are all about. They're concealing something, an allegory. They are, in many cases, American mythology. You see, we come to America, and the Greeks had their myths, the Romans had their myths, the Chinese had their myths, and everything like that. But America, being a new nation, we didn't have all of those. So we invented new ones. But what we find out is that they're not really new, because Solomon said there is no new thing under the sun. They're just reimaginations of old mythologies. And Manly Hall's saying they conceal a secret. He talked about the inner mysteries of life. Man becoming God. And then he talks about the Illuminati. Now, some people use that word to describe any politician they don't like. He's in the Illuminati. I know he is. Spraying chemicals on everybody. There really is an Illuminati. Manly Hall said that there is an elite few that have always been around since the beginning of the world that have known in toto the complete comprehension of what it is they're doing. They've not been illuminated by God. They've been illuminated by the angel of light, Lucifer, the light bearer. Light angels, literally what that means. And so as these men would die off, they left the formula, this idea, to others, but they shrouded it in mystery and secret. And I mean, you're never going to read a Superman comic book or go to see Superman the Man of Steel and Superman comes out and says, "Hi, I'm the Antichrist." I'm going to take over the world and send you all to hell. He's never going to do that. What they're going to do is they're going to deceive everybody in symbols and allegory. And it's to be kept hidden. He called it the Great Arcanum. The grand, huge, big secret of everything. And this is what Mystery Babylon conceals. And it will be revealed in its time. Now, something I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you some artwork. I discovered this in doing the research for Dan Brown's Da Vinci Code. Dan Brown sort of opened a doorway to people's imagination. The idea that Jesus had a wife and they had children and there's an offspring and this and that and the other. This is all part of building up the deception, because how many people read the book, the Da Vinci Code? How many people watched the movie? I mean, this thing is covering the entire earth and everybody is grabbing onto these concepts. It's almost like they're trying to chase down and overrun the Scriptures to capture the minds of not just Americans, but people all over the planet. I started seeing this idea. I started researching Mary Magdalene, and I noticed that often painters who would depict Mary Magdalene would often feature her in the same way. Take a look at this first graphic here. This is Mary Magdalene. She's holding a skull, and she has a book. I'll tell you what that is. Okay, the skull, and we've talked about this before, the skull is the Antichrist. He's the dead God, or the dying God, who has nothing left but a skull. Now, Dan Brown in the Da Vinci Code tried to portray that Mary Magdalene was actually lamenting her dead husband, Jesus Christ, who never rose from the grave. That's not true. This is not Mary Magdalene. She did not get impregnated by Jesus. But here is Mystery Babylon, Isis. She is mourning the loss of her husband, Osiris, hence the skull. And notice that she has her elbow covering a book. She's concealing a secret. I want you to think of books. 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 Of the writing of books, there are many. All right? Think of, here, let's do this one here. This one. See this symbol? Thor. We'll talk about it. All right? Anyway, they're concealed inside of a book. Here's another one. We have Mary Magdalene, the book, and the skull. They're telling you there's something hidden that's going to be revealed, and the symbolism of that is a book. Think of what David said in Psalm 139, in thy book, talking about God's book, all my members were written, which in continuance of fashion when as yet there was none of them. Masons have the idea of what's called the lost word, a secret book that's hidden and will be revealed one of these days that will bring man to immortality. I believe this book is a symbol for DNA, the book where the Antichrist is hidden. Here's another one. Mary Magdalene, the urn that you see down there represents the dead ashes of her husband. And here she is with a book. Here's another one. Mary Magdalene holding a skull, her elbow on a book. Here's one here. This one it stunned me. When I first read this in the Da Vinci Code, I just went, like this. Here is Mystery Babylon. I want you to notice her belly. She's pregnant. She's going to have a baby. Who is that going to be? If this is Isis,